The valley of the River Somme, 1916, a shattered landscape of chalk, wire, and endless mud. For the British infantrymen huddled in these waterlogged trenches, the whistle of falling artillery was a constant terror. But the shells were not the only threat lurking in the dark. There was an invisible, microscopic enemy waiting in the soil. In this filthy, rat-infested environment, a simple scratch from a rusty tin can could be fatal. A minor shrapnel wound was a guaranteed death sentence, because within 48 hours, the bacteria would take hold. Sepsis and gas gangrene would tear through the flesh. Without modern antibiotics, the only medical option was amputation. To make this nightmare even worse, by late 1915, the British Army faced a catastrophic crisis. They had completely run out of medical cotton. Every ounce of cotton was being diverted to manufacture gun cotton, the raw material needed for high explosives and artillery shells. The Empire had chosen firepower over bandages. Field hospitals were overwhelmed, desperate, and bleeding out, until military surgeons turned to a forgotten, ancient Celtic remedy, a biological superweapon pulled straight from the freezing bogs of Scotland. A humble weed that didn't just replace cotton, it outperformed it, saving hundreds of thousands of limbs. Welcome to Heritage Core. Today, we dissect the World War I miracle weed that defeated gangrene, and reveal how you can forage it to survive a grid-down medical collapse. To understand the sheer power of this plant, we must first understand why cotton is actually terrible for deep wounds. Standard white cotton can only absorb about 5 times its weight in fluid. More dangerously, it absorbs that fluid uniformly. When a cotton pad becomes saturated with blood and pus, it collapses into a heavy, wet, suffocating blanket. It blocks all oxygen from reaching the injured tissue. In the muddy trenches, this created a perfect, warm incubator. Anaerobic bacteria, the kind that causes deadly necrosis, thrived under wet cotton. Wounds would literally rot faster, while heavily bandaged. The solution lay in the damp, acidic peat bogs of the British Isles. Sphagnum moss. The Gaelic warriors of the 11th century had used it after the Battle of Clontarf, but the modern medical establishment had dismissed it as folklore, until 2 Scottish surgeons, Charles Macfarlane and Isaac Bailey Balfour, put this primitive weed under a microscope in 1915. What they saw defied belief. At a cellular level, sphagnum moss is a masterpiece of natural engineering. It is composed of over 90% dead space. Its leaves are made of large, empty, barrel-shaped cells. These cells are held open by rigid, microscopic rings of tissue. Even when crushed or dried, these pores remain open. Because of this unique architecture, it is the ultimate biological sponge. Dried sphagnum can absorb up to 22 times its own weight in liquid. A 1-pound sack of moss could absorb 22 pounds of blood. It was nearly 5 times more powerful than hospital-grade cotton. But sheer capacity wasn't its only advantage. It possessed a property called capillary action. Instead of soaking unevenly like a cotton shirt, sphagnum actively draws fluid upward and distributes it evenly throughout the pad. It acts like a vacuum pump, pulling the infected pus, dead blood, and toxins away from the wound bed. This kept the actual injury site incredibly dry, while allowing essential oxygen to flow through the porous moss structure. But the true miracle, the reason it halted the spread of gangrene, lies in its chemical warfare. Sphagnum moss is highly acidic. It thrives in bogs by making the surrounding water hostile to other plants. It achieves this through a process of ion exchange. The moss actively extracts positive ions, like calcium and magnesium, from blood. In return, it releases hydrogen ions directly into the wound. This drastically drops the pH level of the injured tissue. It creates an acidic microclimate of around 3.5 to 4.5 on the pH scale. Most lethal bacteria cannot reproduce in high acidity. The moss literally creates a biological dead zone right on top of the trauma. Furthermore, it contains a natural phenolic compound called sphagnol, a mild, naturally occurring antiseptic that suppresses fungal growth. When World War I medics began applying these moss pads at the Somme, The results were nothing short of miraculous. Wound stopped emitting the foul stench of putrefaction within days. Soldiers with shattered limbs, who were marked for amputation, began to heal. The demand for this miracle weed exploded overnight. By 1918, a massive, civilian-led supply chain had been forged. Women and children across the UK and Canada waded into freezing bogs, gathering the moss by hand, cleaning it, and drying it in the sun. Over 1 million sphagnum dressings were shipped to the front lines every month. It was the ultimate off-grid medical triumph. But this historical knowledge is not just a fascinating museum piece. It is a critical survival skill for an uncertain future. However, if you intend to use this in a modern emergency, you must understand how to avoid 3 fatal mistakes. Mistake number 1. Harvesting the wrong weed. There are hundreds of species of moss growing in the forest. Grabbing regular tree moss or ground moss is a catastrophic error. Standard moss lacks the hollow cells and the acidic ion exchange. Worse, it is crawling with soil bacteria, nematodes, and fungi. Packing regular dirt moss into an open wound will cause immediate sepsis. True sphagnum moss grows only in wet, acidic bogs and wetlands. It forms thick, spongy, pale green or reddish carpets floating over the water. Mistake number 2, the wet application. Sphagnum moss, fresh out of the ground, is already saturated with bog water. Applying it wet means its cellular sponge is completely full. It cannot absorb your blood or draw away toxins. The World War I medics meticulously sorted, washed, and sun-dried the moss for days. It must be bone-dry and slightly crumbly before it is used. Only then does it activate its massive absorption capacity. Mistake number 3, the puncture trap. While moss is incredible for broad lacerations and surface wounds, you should never pack raw moss directly into a deep, narrow puncture wound. The tiny, brittle organic fibers can break off deep inside the muscle. The body will treat them as foreign objects, causing massive internal inflammation. To be safe, always pack the dried moss inside a sterile, porous cloth pouch first. A simple muslin bag allows the fluid to pass through, keeping the debris out. Fast forward to the modern world. We live in an era defined by chemical antibiotics. We assume that a cut will always be cured by a quick trip to the pharmacy. We have outsourced our immune systems to global supply chains. But what happens when those chains break? During a severe, prolonged grid-down scenario, whether from a cyber attack, civil unrest, or natural disaster, the pharmacies will be looted bare within 48 hours. Hospitals will be overrun, out of power, and out of basic medicine. When the manufactured bandages and the amoxicillin run dry, we will be thrust violently back to the medical reality of 1916. In that dark future, your expensive, modern first aid kit will only last a few weeks. You will watch simple injuries turn into life-threatening emergencies. Unless you are a prepper, armed with historical knowledge. Because historical knowledge gives you an infinite supply chain. You don't need a sterile pharmaceutical factory in Switzerland. You just need a local wetland, a pair of boots, and a burlap sack. You can forage, dry, and stockpile your own biological trauma dressings. You can stop bleeding, neutralize lethal bacteria, and save limbs by using the exact same humble weed that sustained the British Army. This is the true essence of heritage core. Our ancestors didn't have high technology, but they had a profound, granular observation of the natural world. They understood how to manipulate the chemistry of nature to survive. Today, we have traded that rugged, resilient knowledge for fragile convenience. We trust a piece of white plastic over millions of years of evolution. So, the next time you put a simple, sterile plaster on a scratch, take a moment to appreciate the sheer luxury of modern medicine. Realize how lucky we are to live in an age of instant sanitization. But never forget that this luxury is not guaranteed. And if that safety net is ever violently taken away, remember the muddy trenches of the Somme. Look away from the looted pharmacy shelves and look toward the bogs, because nature is the ultimate, indestructible pharmacy. Now, I turn the question over to you. If a major crisis wiped out all modern medical infrastructure tomorrow, what is the one medical supply you think your community would panic over the most? Would it be painkillers, broad-spectrum antibiotics, or simple bandages? And more importantly, do you have a natural backup plan for it? Share your thoughts and survival strategies in the comments below. This channel is entirely dedicated to reviving the lost survival skills of history. We look backward into the darkest chapters of the human experience so that you can walk confidently forward into an uncertain future. If you want to arm yourself with more forgotten, life-saving knowledge, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Never outsource your survival entirely to a fragile system. Join the ranks of those who are prepared for anything. We are Heritage Corps. Stay vigilant, stay prepared, and always respect the rugged resilience of the past. I will see you in the next chapter. Until then, keep your skills sharp and your mind open. Thank you for watching. If you found this deep dive into World War I medical survival fascinating, you absolutely need to watch the video appearing on your screen right now. In it, we reveal the 18th century Navy trick for preserving meat for years. It uses zero electricity and requires only salt and fat. It is an absolutely essential food storage hack for any grid-down scenario. Click the thumbnail to master another piece of historical survival. And if you want to support the channel and suggest future historical topics, leave a like and drop a comment below. Every interaction helps us spread this vital knowledge further. Remember, history isn't just about dates and battles. It is a catalogue of human endurance. It is a manual for surviving the worst conditions imaginable. The soldiers of 1916 didn't have a choice in their suffering, but we have a choice in how we prepare for ours. Take the lessons of the past, apply them to the threats of the future, and become undeniably resilient. This has been Heritage Corps, signing off. Stay safe out there, and never stop learning, because the knowledge you ignore today might be the exact knowledge you need tomorrow. The bogs are always waiting. Nature provides for those who know where to look. Are you looking closely enough? Find your moss. Build your kits. Protect your family. History is watching. Make sure you are ready for its next test. Goodbye. See you on the next video. Keep exploring. Keep surviving. Heritage Corps out.